Looks like we're off to a good start. Welcome to the circus. It is I, Hans, Phoenix Electra, and Loki Fluff. And today we're going to do something a little different because now that we are kind of getting sort of situated for our underpinnings for our costume, we need to figure out what we're wearing on top of it. Cats? Cats on the microphone? This is going super well. Loki's decided he's gonna camp out on my setup here. So yeah, we are just starting off stellar. Did I introduce myself? I'm Phoenix Electra. Welcome to the circus. We do all sorts of stuff here. And that's what we do. So today, as I was getting on blabberlathingly, attempting to draft the 7 gore skirt pattern from the American Cutter's manual guide thingy-majiggy. I'm pretty sure I have it linked in the descriptions in the downstairs places. Let me see if I can be fancy here. What do I need to add? Let's see here. Not add share. I don't know how to be fancy today. I was going to see if I could be super cool and share the written manual, but I didn't figure out how to do that ahead of time, so we're not going to. So instead, you can just suffer with me as I try to read and decipher the instructions. So, let's see here. We are in the American system of dressmaking, taught only by the American College of Dressmaking, Kansas City, Missouri. We are in lesson 7, which in the archive.org is a page 188-ish. And it goes through, the first part of that lesson is getting your measurements, which I've already done. For this first version mock-up, toile wearable mock-up, I'm going to use my uncorseted measurements because of reasons. So that's what we're going to use. We're going to draft it, I think, at half scale. I think I can get to fit on this page. And if we get there, I have a roll of medical exam table paper, which I frequently use for my patterns because it comes in a huge roll and it just happens to be readily accessible in my world for reasons. So we'll see. Nobody's watching, so I'm going to enlarge this so I can see it. And all right, so we go through the relative proportions. They've got, let's see here, their example uses a 24-inch waist, 40-inch hips, a dart length which is 6, which I think, and then a length of 40 inches. I am going to not make mine that long. I think I decided, I forgot, but it doesn't matter right now. So, thirsty. On page 4, relative proportions. The draft accompanying this lesson represents the top of one edge or one half of the skirt. The right edge of the paper, of the paper from E on down represents the center. Let's see what hopefully at the back they have a diagram, a visual, lines extend. Ah, yes, okay. So that is figure 137 on page 14. Okay. This looks straightforward, but I probably spoke too soon. All right, let's get back to reading. Yeah, we are doing so well performing to no one, which is what we do here at the circus. Well, I would love it if my friends would come and hang out with me. All right, relative proportions. The draft accompanying this lesson represents the top of one side or one half of the skirt. The right edge of the paper from E on downwards represents the center of the front gore. Therefore, only one half of the front gore is illustrated on draft. In proportioning the width of the gores at the hip line, they are made so that they will be equal with the exception of the back gore. There are two of these gores, and the width of the two at the hip line. There are two of these gores, and the width of the two at hip line taken together is equal to each of the others. So the two in the back equal one in the front. Okay, see, this is why it would be great if somebody would come hang out with me and help me interpret these directions, but alas, we suffer alone. Let's see here, where's the directions? Then the width of one of the back gores or line 13 together with the width of one half of the front gore or line 1, which is represented on draft, form 1/3 of this half of the skirt. This is why we draw lines 1 and 13 and the length of 1/6 of one half of the entire hip measure. Sorry, I'm getting lost in the page. This is why we draw lines 1 and the length 1 and 13 the length of 1/6 of one half of the entire hip measure, because 1/6 is one half of 1/3. Brilliant. The first and second side gores form the other 2/3. Therefore, each will be 1/3 of half of the entire hip measure. The hip. Okay, so let's hold on a second. Before it's okay, so we're going to need to do some maths here real quick. So here I've got my waist. I'm going to use 28, my hips 38. The distance between my hip and my waist is 6. We don't need that note. So I know if I... All right, here. So let's go from what I think I understand and just draw a quick little schematic. Actually, we don't need to be that. We are going to look at the diagram figure 137 and just help ourselves out a little bit here. So we have a piece that looks like this. that comes up. We have this triangle-y bit, comes down, triangle, triangle, flat bit, up, up, flat bit, little up, flat bit. There's the flip. Okay. And we'll just... Wow, I'm trying to use a black pen so that people can see what I'm doing. Okay, so that... And then it comes... This is the straight one. It's gonna... It has a little bit of an angle. And then when you go like this, swoopity doopity, and then come down, ploopity ploopity. And let it show. So these are the pieces. Those are the gores. Okay, so these pokey bits go like this. That you can't see. So it goes, makes a little V down, and then they have little lines like this. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is a half a one. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this one they have is a dotted. And let's see here. Haha. So they talk about these markings 1 and 13, but they don't actually have those denoted on their picture here. Splendid. We can surmise that this measurement here is 38 inches, here is 28 inches, and from here to here is going to be 6 inches. The reason we are suffering ourselves through this exercise is actually so that we can use this basic attempt at understanding how this drafting manual works and do the split riding skirt, which is what I really want. But maybe this pattern isn't going to be that bad. We just actually have to do the maths here. So let's see here. Oh, because these are darts in between. Okay, we can figure this out. All right, so back to our maths section. There aren't. Let's see. Okay. The right edge of the paper from E. So let's call this part E. Represents 1/2 of one side, or one side of the skirt, 1/2 of the skirt. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4. I thought it was 7. Okay. Oh, blah, 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 blah. That's where the 1 that equals 2 comes in somehow. Okay. Let's see here. In proportioning the width of the gores at the hip line, they are made so that they will be equal with the exceptions of the back gore. There are 2 of these gores, and the width of the 2 at the hip hip line taken together are equal to each other. So this piece is equal to these two pieces. So can we do Z, Y, X, Q? Because I can't. And the others. Then the width of one of the back gores, or line 13, together with the width of one half of the front gore, or line 1, which represent one half of the front gore, or line 1, which is represented on the draft, form 1/3 of this half of the skirt. So this plus this equals 1/3, they're saying. Okay. This is why we draw lines 1 and 13, the length of 1/6 of 1/2 of the skirt. This is okay. Let's see here. This is why we draw lines 1 and 13, the length of 1/6 of 1/2 of the entire hip measurements. Okay, so our hip measurements are 38. 38. So half of that is going to be 19. And then can we do 1/6 of 19? So 3, 18, 1, 0, 3.9. Might just be easier to make it 40, or to round that up to 4, but we'll see. Okay, so we have, it says 3.9 is of the hip, equal to 3.9. Okay. Where are we? Because 1/6 is 1/2 of 1/3. The first and second side gores form the other 2/3. Therefore, each will be 1/3. Okay, so each gore is one. Okay, so each gore is going to be 4 inches. Is that what we're getting at here? The first and second side gores form the other 2/3. Therefore, each will be 1/3 of 1/2 of the entire hip measure. The hip measure in the draft is 40 inches. Instead of, we have made this easier for ourselves and just read first. Probably. 1/2 of 40 equals 3. How are they doing this math? I think they're doing new age math here, or old age math. Okay, so instead of having to stop and compute 1/6 of 1/2 of 40 equals 3 1/3, simply mark on the scale of sixth opposite the mark representing 1/2 of the hip measure, or 20, which is 3 1/3 on the scale of inches. Likewise, in marking the hip line of the first and second side gores, instructions read to draw lines 5 and 9, 1. I think this pattern is going to make me cry. The combinations and the split drawers I made, way easier. This skirt is going to be an exercise in funness, which was hoping we'd have friends, but hey, replay crew. I can't get myself in the scene. This is so obscene. Okay. It would have been really helpful if they'd put the numbers on the figure, because this is painful. Okay. Where are we? 40 equals 3 and 1/3. Simply mark on the scale of sixths opposite the mark representing 1/2 of the hip measure, or 20. So this is, oh, because this is half of the skirt. Okay. So this is actually, what did we say, 19 inches. This top is 14 or 20, which is 3 and 1/3 on the scale of inches. Okay, so we did that. Okay, what are they saying here? So did they divide 6 into 20? 3 is 18 and 1/3. Okay, all right. So ours is 3.9. Likewise, in marking for the hip line of first and second side gores, instructions read to draw lines 5 and 9, 1/3 of 1/2 of the hip measure. 1/3 of 1/2 of the hip measure. Those are measure. Therefore, simply mark on the scale of thirds opposite figure representing 1/2 of hip measure, or 20, which by measuring from the corner of the square to this mark is 6 and 2/3 on the scales of inches, because that was 1/2, 1/3 and 1/2. So we have 1/2, and then we need 1/3 of that. So 19 divided by 3 is going to give us 8, which is going to be 18. Bring down the 1.9. So basically, we have 8.9 inches for this gore. Okay, so am I understanding this right? That this panel is 4 inches. This is 9 inches. This is 9 inches. And this is 8 inches. They didn't even draw it out on graph paper. It's like, what the hell? At the end of this lesson, the 7 gore skirt draft, for which we have just given instructions, is used only as a foundation basis. Therefore, we do not cut an outside skirt unless the skirt is to be quite narrow, until you have learned how to add fullness to the bottom of this draft. This draft measures 49 inches, including the inverted plate at the top, which would make the entire skirt only twice that, or 2 yards and 26 inches. Oh, so for the fabric, how much fabric you would need. Okay. All right, well, we haven't started to cry or pull out our hair yet, so we're doing pretty good. entirely tanks. Alright, here. Changes. Okay, Lots of proportions drafting. Next. Okay. Okay, drafting the top of the skirt. Measure down from the top of the paper on its right edge from 10 to 15 inches. Alright, let's practice over here because I don't understand. Okay. So we're going to do 5 for shits and giggles here. Okay. Measure down from the top and draw to the and draw to the left a horizontal line by placing the face of the square down with the corner and short arm on the edge of oh, they're using a T-square, I think. Okay, whatever. Oh, I want to give up, but I can't. Okay. And there's a cat fight. Whoa, whoa. And there's still a cat fight. I know, there's no comments because nobody's paying attention to this sad show. What does this button do? Oh, that's just showing where I'm going. Okay, drafting top of the skirt. Measure. Okay, likewise. Lines 5 and 9, 1/3 of 1/2 of the measure. Therefore, simply mark on the scale of thirds opposite figure representing 1/2 of hip measure or 20 by. Okay, oh right, we did that. So it's 3, 4, 9, and 8. Okay. Measure down from the top of the paper on the right edge some amount by placing the face of the square down with the corner and short arm at the edge of the paper. As the width of the front gore is 1/6 of 1/2 of the hip measure. 4. As the width of the front gore is 1/6 of 1/2 of the hip measure, and since the hip measure is 38 inches in this draft, by the length of line 1 will be 20 on the scale of sixths, which by testing is found to be 3 1/3 on the scale of inches. Okay, so they're taking this pattern, they know how many panels it's supposed to be, so then they're doing some maths. So the front is half of the hip measure, and then 1/6 of that because it's of the stuffers. Okay. So does this mean I need to draw it? So I drew it out 4, and then because we're doing a little scale, 4 would be 2 inches. From the left end of line 1, draw a straight line down. We're going to do it small, so 3 inches. Okay. Mark this. Line 2. This is 1. This is done from down 6 inches along and at a right angle with line 1. Mark this line 2. This is done by placing the corner of the square on the left end of line 1 and letting the in future lessons, for convenience, we will call this process squaring on a line. From the lower end of line 2, draw a line to the left, 1/2 inch long at a right angle with line 2. So 1/2 inch in our micro scale. It's going to be 1 3/4. I can do some math. Arc up. Line 3. Now with the square touching the left end of line 3. Also junction of lines 1 and 2. Touch line 2 and its long arm will extend to the left. Okay. Now with the square touching to the left end of line 3, also junction of lines 1 and 2, draw a straight line, letting it extend about 6 inches above line 1 or hip line and about 10 to 12 inches below line 1. Oh, did I? Why did they do this way? Okay, so I see the pretty diagram, but that still does not help me. All right. I think we're going to call this travesty of a stream over for now because I'm confused. I don't know how the filming was, and I'm confused. All right. We'll see you tomorrow for a knitting magazine, and Sunday where we will be stitching something. All right, till later. Bye.